This is the fastest scoring Indian side in history. And I know what you're going to say. Yeah, obviously. Everyone scores quicker now. So, of course, so does the Indian side. And I understand that. But I don't quite mean it just with raw stats. What I mean is, even when you adjust for era the way that we have, this is still the fastest Indian team there has ever been in one-day internationals. High intent Rohit has really changed the kind of side that India puts out there. And having a bunch of all-rounders also helps quite a bit. And so they score fast now, even on days when they don't. Like the game against New Zealand. This was clearly not an easy wicket to score quickly on. But India found a way to make runs faster than New Zealand probably ever could have. That is because they don't just bat fast, but well. This is the kind of game that traditionally the Kiwis are absolute kings of, right? A low-scoring grit fest. But from the moment they were out to bat, 250 looked like, 350. The Kiwis could either stay in and be slow or hit a boundary and go out, while India are able to score and stay in, which is surprisingly a very good thing in one-day internationals.
Do you want AMAs to connect on live calls with me or engage with our dynamic Discord community? Maybe you want ad-free content, early podcast episodes, or to stay informed through my emailer. Well, if you support us on Patreon, you get all of that plus a little bit of behind the scenes, how the sausage is made stuff. Our deepest thanks go to everyone who has supported us on Patreon so far, but the more people who do means the more content we can make.
This is not the fastest scoring tournament in ICC history. The last World Cup was slightly quicker, but as you'd expect, it's still been pretty fast. Since 2006, there has been a steady increase for each tournament. Now, it's not quite as obvious sometimes because you might get a tournament that is played in a rainy season, or the pitches are underprepared, or they just get tired and slow. But what is more noticeable is how much better batters have become at scoring quickly while not being dismissed. Since 2015, every single tournament has had an average of more than 30. That is 5 straight. And in the history of the ICC tournaments, it only happened 6 times before that. This Champions Trophy, we were flirting brashly with averaging 40 for a while before the dip came in the last couple of games. But there's absolutely no doubt when you watch modern ODI cricket, it's the ability of the batters to stay in while also scoring quickly that is probably the most amazing thing. They're just much better at scoring quickly without being dismissed than they used to be. Since 2015, we've basically entered an entirely different version of one-day international cricket. But these are all raw numbers. And what I wondered is how these tournaments look when you adjust for the evolution of the game. The 2023 World Cup is still the best in terms of strike rate. And you can probably ignore 1975 because there were so few games played around that era. But 1987 was one of the best in terms of average. But this tournament, alongside the first Champions Trophy, has a really high average and a great strike rate. We've seen a tournament where teams stay in and score fast. We use something called bird metrics for our adjusted stats when we talk about ODI bowling because it's named after Joel Garner. And you can see again that there is a wicket every 34 deliveries. But it's still nearly a run a ball when adjusted. The 2023 World Cup and this Champs Trophy are actually quite closely linked on this one. And this is every team's adjusted Zulu batting ratings at major tournaments. And you can see right now that Australia is the quickest we have ever seen. I mean, they've only played 2 games in this tournament. But a lot of this is down to wickets, right? Look at where India is for this tournament. They're in the middle of the pack on strike rate, but they're not losing wickets. That's because of the Dubai pitch. It's very hard to score quickly on this ground, but they can survive, and no one can do that against them. Kane Williamson was basically just treading water. And the moment that Ravi Jadeja spun a ball viciously, the Kiwis were either going to be too slow or get out hitting. And they didn't have Ravi Jadeja batting at number 8 either. However, when looking at all these stats, just looking at ICC events never gives you the full or entire picture. Teams often don't play that many games, right? What if we look at over 4-year rolling records? Here, the Great West Indian side of the late 1970s really pops. But right behind them is a wall of modern England, showing how revolutionary they were not that long ago before being revolutionary in a completely different way. In fact, it's actually worth having a look at how bad they used to be at ODI cricket and what they're doing at the moment. You can see, essentially, they are trying to score at the same rate they were in the 2 cycles before this. The only problem is that they haven't worked out how to stay in while doing that, which is never ideal in a 50-over match. And that's why I find India so interesting as a team at the moment, on top of them just being good, because they've constantly been a great team on average, which of course makes a lot of sense, right? Since they've had incredible batting talent since the 90s. But they've given some of that back of recent times so they can score quicker. And that has actually made them a more dangerous side. And this is all because they are trusting their all-rounders to be frontline bowlers, so Rohit can go boom at the top, and others can push harder in the middle, even on days like this when they lose wickets. And they know that they can still get runs out of the players all the way down the order. The current team, outside of the most recent game, is probably missing a little bit of strike bowling, which is why I've been begging them to take another look at the new Viking version of Varun Chakravarti. And he comes in and straight away cleans up. So if you just focus on their bowling, they have one of the best strike seamers around, a left-arm wrist spinner who used to be a strike bowler and now no one is scoring off, and a mystery tweaker absolutely tearing shit down, with 3 other options all good enough to be at worst 10 over a match guys, and quite often a lot better than that. That all-round core is like a mega Evan Goldberg effect. India used to believe that scoring as many runs from their top 3 as possible was their best chance of winning games. Watch them play now. They don't worry about that anymore. This is a match that they might have gone too slow in a previous era, just got themselves bogged down and let New Zealand chase something much closer to around 200. Instead, even after the slow start, they knew they could attack when it suited, and also know that they could lose wickets because they had Ravi fucking Jadeja coming in at number 8. They have the ability to score quickly on good pitches and still score more than you'd expect on the tougher ones. To bat normally with hitting or hit crazily with depth. This looked like an underwhelming score when the first innings finished. Their bowlers didn't get many wickets early on or in the middle, and yet they still won easily. Teams may still beat India in one-offs, as Australia showed in the last World Cup, but on a day-to-day basis, it doesn't matter if the pitch is slow scoring or fast. This is the quickest team in Indian history, and they are very tough to hang with.
South Africa did not choke. In 1906, South Africa needed 284 to win. They had only passed 100 in half their test innings at that point. At 105 for 6, it seemed impossible. They fought back but lost another flurry, leaving 45 to win with 1 wicket in hand. At the crease was Dave Norse, who was a capable batter, and he was joined by Percy Sherwell, the only debutant captain keeper and number 11 in Test cricket history. And these two were doing it. A huge crowd in South Africa cheered on every single run. With 8 left, Sherwell edged between slips for 4. Straight after, Norse ran a 3. England bowled 3 dots. All they needed was 1 wicket to tie. Instead, a leg side full toss, boundary, game over. This was Test cricket's first 1-wicket win, and their last partnership was a record for almost 100 years. But it was also something else. This was the first Test match that South Africa had ever won. Buy my book on Amazon, Overthrowing Cricket's Empire.